Let me now welcome the Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He's my guest on Inside Pages today. And Honorable, let me say a very good morning to you, and thanks for having you.
Hi, good morning, Moro.
Before we proceed with our conversation today, there's a video which I want us to play. It's a very interesting video. Now, I need you to watch this.
I know there are a few of you still waiting for your meal. We'll keep it snappy because it's been a very traumatic period for you all. We know that you have witnessed unspeakable and undescribable horror. I made a journey here today to let you all know that as Ghanaians, we are one people with a common destiny. We are united because we share a common humanity. This is not a time to think about all those artificial differences. We are one people, we are one nation. It doesn't matter what political party you belong to. It doesn't matter what ethnic group you belong to. It doesn't matter what region you come from. It doesn't matter which church you attend. We are first and foremost human beings. This is a humanitarian.
All right, that's the Honorable Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He was in Romania to fraternize and to interact with students, Ghanaian students who are trying to flee the conflict situation in Ukraine. So he went specifically to Romania. We'll talk about that. But I don't see how I can start this conversation without picking your thoughts about the Supreme Court's ruling on Article 102 and 104 and the kind of heat and the kind of debate it has generated. I don't know what your personal thoughts about this very interesting Supreme Court ruling is.
Thank you very much, Moro. Good morning to you. And let me also congratulate Adisadel College on your milestone. It's good to hear that you are gathering, and that will be inspirational to the young ones to see all of you, great and mighty, return to your alma mater. So congratulations to you.
In fact, there's somebody who has sent me a message, and he said, please tell Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa that I am fully aware that he wanted to come to Adisadel College, but didn't get the opportunity to come. And that's why he ended up at Presec. So you're free to debunk it. Anyway.
I know the rivalries will always be there. Yeah. But right. you know there's only one boys' school.
We have heard.
Yeah, Presec and the others. As you have rightly said, Mo, right. These are very interesting times indeed. And let me wish all our viewers a happy weekend. Good morning to everybody. We were all expecting the apex court of the land to bring clarity to the matters that are in great dispute, that have divided the nation, divided opinions, and divided Parliament right down the middle. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court judgment appears to have rather deepened the schism and created a great cloud of uncertainty. I have been reading the entire 29-page judgment since the certified true copy became available yesterday, and I'm really wondering how this judicial pronouncement by the apex court is going to settle the matters. The matters do not appear settled at all, okay, having read through all 29 pages. And let me state from the outset that all the three arms of government are subject to
the Constitution.
We are not above the laws,
right,
and we are not above the critique of the general public.
Right.
Indeed, as the Supreme Court rightly acknowledged in its own judgment, that in Ghana we do not have parliamentary sovereignty or parliamentary supremacy.
Right.
In our country, the Constitution is very clear that sovereignty resides in the people. So all of us as functionaries of the three arms of government, be you in the legislature, be you in the executive, be you in the judiciary, you must know that you conduct affairs based on the laws of our country. We are all under the law. But most importantly, the people, the sovereign people, will assess, they will analyze, they will pass a verdict on what we do, our conduct, our pronouncements. And it should, the ongoing discussions and the critique should be seen within that spectrum. I have observed that many people are quick to want to, as it were, bastardize those who offer critique,
Right.
as though, any arm of government, whether it's executive, legislature, judiciary, is above reproach, is above criticism.
Right.
None of the arms of government is above criticism. In fact, judges themselves know that their judgments, their rulings will be subject to critique. And sometimes parties will take a strong view in opposition. And that is why even within the judicial system, there are avenues to seek redress, to go for review, to go for appeals, and to try to set right what you believe to be wrong. So I think that we must start from that premise. Okay. Now, having read the entire 29-page judgment, I think that there's a fundamental omission. When they set out the issues, I am surprised that they left out, to me, what is the most important issue. Whether the meeting convened on that day was properly convened under Article 102 of the Constitution. You see, they try to create the impression as though there are separate meetings or different meetings of Parliament, where you can have a different meeting to take a vote under Article 104.
Right.
Look, 102 of our Constitution is very clear. A quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. That is the quorum.
Right.
The quorum of Parliament. Mm-hmm. So that's where you start from.
Which is to start parliamentary business.
To start parliamentary business.
Right.
So to start, to begin, to commence, to be properly constituted, you need a quorum of 1/3, apart from the person presiding.
Right.
So here, it doesn't matter whether it's the speaker presiding, a first or second deputy, or a member of parliament. If you go through our standing orders,
Right.
a member of parliament, when all three speakers are not available,
Right.
we can elect one of our colleagues to take the chair. The Constitution is saying that no matter who is presiding, apart from that person presiding, you need 1/3 to be present for the meeting to commence.
Right.
Because if you don't have a quorum, you can't start a meeting. You can't start any business.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's trite. It's basic. So if you didn't have a quorum to commence, a quorum to convene a meeting, how can you then begin to go into Article 1041? Because I don't want to even go into that argument of whether speakers can vote or not.
We're not there yet.
We are not there yet.
Okay.
First, the most fundamental issue is whether a meeting was properly convened. And so far as I am concerned, that meeting which was convened, chaired by the Honorable Joe Osewusu, was a nullity. It was a constitutional nullity.
Because
they didn't meet the minimum threshold,
which is
the
1/3.
provision of Article 102, which is 1/3.
Right.
138 members, apart from the person presiding. That day, they didn't have the 138 members. Because as you know, if you add the independent MP to the entire MP's caucus, you have 138. One of them was presiding. So apart from the person presiding, they should have had 138.
No, but you're talking 1/3, which is about 92.
So
For the business
Yes.
of the House to begin.
Yes.
You're talking 92.
Yeah.
And that 92 we're talking about here, that excludes the person who's going to preside.
no problem about that.
Yes.
But I'm saying that it is important for us to have that understanding.
Right.
That for there to be a meeting which is properly constituted, it is clear to me that you should have had 138 people in the House.
But that's for decisions
That's
to
for
be taken
decision, yes.
on matters before the House.
Exactly.
But here you are talking about the numbers that you ought to have in Parliament for the business of the House to begin, and that's the 92.
Yes.
I'm talking about.
Yes.
The Supreme Court doesn't disagree with you on that. The Supreme Court says matters that has to do with the quorum that you need for the business of the House to start, it's fine. They don't disagree that you have to have 1/3, excluding the presiding official or the presiding person. Where they have a problem is the issue about the quorum that you ought to have, which is the 138 that you're talking about, for decisions of the House to be made. And that's where they're saying that the presiding member should be counted as part of the quorum because he is a member of Parliament first. That is the bone of contention.
You don't seem to be getting me.
Okay, maybe I'm not getting your
the point I'm
submission.
making.
Right.
The point I'm making is that
Okay.
if you are not counted
Right.
as part of the quorum,
Okay.
you cannot be counted. If you read Article 102 of our Constitution,
Okay. That's okay. And I get the point.
you cannot be counted
Okay,
as
okay.
part of the quorum.
Right.
So we must start from there.
So which of the quorums?
You must start from there.
Okay.
You cannot be counted as part of the quorum.
Okay. For the start of the
for
business
start
of the House.
business.
Okay.
For the start of the bill, you can't
Right.
be counted as part of the quorum. So if you cannot be counted as part of the quorum, fundamentally, as part of the quorum,
Right.
how is it that when it comes to decision making, you are then added?
Okay.
You are added to it.
So that's the illogicality.
Under 104.
So that's the illogicality you're referring to.
Illogicality, yes.
Okay.
I don't see a logical flow.
Okay.
I don't see it.
Right.
Because if you are not counted as part of the quorum from Article 102,
You have no business being
The basis.
counted as part of the quorum for decision making.
how is it that when it comes to decision making, suddenly you are counted? Because you see, if you go to Standing Order 53, the order of business is well outlined. So first we must have a quorum. You are not part of the quorum when the meeting starts. And if you look at the provisions, it says that the meeting will start under Order 53.1. The business of each sitting day, as decided by the business committee, shall be set out in the order paper and shall, whenever possible, be transacted in the following order.
Right.
So prayers, oaths, addressed by the president, messages from the president, formal communication by the speaker, election of a deputy speaker, then ceremonial speeches, correction of votes and proceedings and official reports, statements by Mr. Speaker and ministers, questions to ministers and other members, statements, complaints or contempt of parliament, message from the Council of State, presentation of petitions, presentation of papers, presentation of public bills, motions for the introduction of bills, motions on specific matters of urgent public importance, bills and substantive motions, half-hour motions, in that order.
Right.
So you cannot be creating distinctions of our meetings.
Okay.
There is only one meeting convened. In the provisions of this Constitution, the person presiding is not counted as the quorum. Now, if you are not part of the quorum, how is it that when it comes to quorum for taking decisions, which is a subset, it flows
Right.
from the foundation.
Right.
Without the foundation. So if you are not part of the quorum, how suddenly do you become part of the quorum to take decisions?
Right, that's in your considered view.
in the same meeting,
Right.
where you are following this order of
Right.
business.
So it doesn't add up.
So it doesn't add up.
Right.
This doesn't bring clarity. Look, I've heard, and the president echoed this point a few days ago, that don't take the right of the deputy
Member of
speakers to vote.
Yes.
And that it will deny their constituents. Look, if you go through the Constitution, you go through the standing orders, there are so many provisions that once you assume the chair as a presiding officer, whether you are speaker, you are a member who is taking the chair, you lose certain privileges. And of course, you also assume a lot of powers to determine who will be called, who speaks, how long you speak, whether you will be ruled out of order or not. For example, under this Constitution, if you look at Article 1045, a member who is a party to a partner in a firm which is a party to a contract with the government shall declare his interest and shall not vote on any question relating to the contract. So here, if you are an MP and there's a matter that you have an interest in, you are not allowed to vote. Are we saying that in that instance, we are not being fair to your constituents who have elected you here?
Right.
If you look at Standing Order 2115 of our Standing Order, it says this is proceedings of committees. The chairman shall not have any original vote, but in the event of an equality of votes, he shall give a casting vote. That is at committees. So
Right.
at committees, members of parliament who are chairmen don't vote. You don't have an original vote. Is that something that, as it were, undermines,
away the fundamental rights.
the rights of constituents? Throughout this constitution and standing orders, if you are presiding, you don't take part in debate. Debating is one of the cardinal functions of members of parliament, of the house. Indeed, the whole, parliament, the palais, this is about debate, going there to speak. But you are denied that once you assume the chair. So to say that you cannot, take away some privileges, some rights when you assume the chair. Look, it is clear to me that we are where we are because the numbers are razor sharp. And instead, for all the actors, the key artists, to come together and to work in the national interest, we are rather choosing the path of stiff-neckedness, extreme partisanship, and still engaging in sheer bravado, that is really driven by, the petty politicking.
Right.
Look, let's come together. Ghanaians voted in the 2020 election for power sharing, whether we like it or not. We are in uncharted waters. This is the first time in our country's history that there is a hung parliament, 137. This is the first time that we have a speaker who is not from the president's party. It's never happened. What it means really is that Ghanaians have voted for power sharing. Ghanaians want a more assertive parliament for the checks and balances, that have eluded us for many years. Parliament has been described as a rubber stamp. The executive is just marauding and just having its way, and that it is really important for us to now come together and pursue patriotism, pursue the national interest, pursue that which matters, and not always just what is in the interest of my party, which may not necessarily be in the national interest. So instead of the extreme lengths we are going, because of extreme partisanship, which in the final analysis is raising tensions, leading to escalating, divisions, and creating needless heat. Let us rather come together. See how outraged the Right Honourable Speaker is.
I was just about to ask you about
if you read the
statement that he issued.
If you read the Right Honourable Speaker's statement, you see that he is really livid because he talks about a reckless incursion into the remit of Parliament.
Right.
We all know about the principle of separation of powers, the political question doctrine. And I noticed that the eminent jurists go on and on about that and say that if it was solely a matter to do with standing orders and procedures within Parliament, they will have stayed clear. But because there are constitutional provisions, that have become a matter of dispute, they think that they must make incursions. The Speaker strongly disagrees. And you see, this hung Parliament, you see what it is leading to. When was it? I don't recall ever when the head of the legislative arm, issues such a strongly worded statement. Then you have the head of the executive, who also is strongly supporting the judiciary. And the judiciary puts out this judgment, the apex court, which has generated all of this controversy. Are we really, this approach we've adopted of extreme, ends, are we really? Because I would wish that in all of this, it is jurisprudence which will be enhanced, democracy will grow, our constitution, which is an organic document, will, as it were, develop. But that's not what we are seeing. We are rather seeing, a desecration. We are seeing, all kinds of, as the former president put it, convenient analysis when it suits you. And you notice that the first deputy speaker has been caught in the web. He himself, there's a video which has gone viral where he himself says that, look, when you are presiding as deputy speaker, you don't have a vote. So he didn't vote that day, the day in question.
It said that is not in dispute at all.
And he says it's not in dispute.
At all, yeah.
Now the Supreme Court takes a different view, and he has made a U-turn and says that the Supreme Court is vindicating him. So the general public is wondering what's going on here.
Right.
So it's all convenience, as the former president says. It's not about principle. It's not about what is clear, what is right, what is in the national interest, what is the state of the law,
but
which is unimpeachable, which cannot be questioned.
Right.
So I get very, very worried. And those of us, you see, in Parliament, who have been sent there by the people having high expectation, who expect that this Parliament will rather lead to the strengthening of our democracy. When people voted this way in the 2020 election, they expected that there will be some equal strength checks and balances.
But arguably,
where we will push forward the national interest. But unfortunately, that's not what we are seeing here. Because look, I mean, the more you read this 29-page judgment, you read the analysis which are being made by other eminent lawyers and people who are well versed in jurisprudence. They are not impressed, and they say that, look, this judgment must be reviewed. Should not be allowed to stand the test of time. It's really unfortunate.
Just briefly, are you in favor of those who are pushing for a review?
Absolutely.
You think there must be a review?
Absolutely.
But I've also heard some people say that you don't expect anything different.
Yeah, but let the record show that the Ghanaian people, particularly the gentleman Justice Ablakwa, who I know very well, was my mate at the University of Ghana.
Right.
It is important that the records will reflect that at first instance we didn't accept this,
right?
And that at least there was an effort to seek a review, because you see, as I was saying, that fundamental issue of you who is presiding not being part of the quorum, as has been well expressed in Article 102. How is it that when we come to Article 104,
it's a different matter?
It is entirely a different matter. And you see, when we talk about voting, division, are you aware that voice votes is part of it? Parliament votes
viva voce
by voice, viva voce, by voting by head count. We also vote by secret ballot. These are the three ways we vote. Are we saying that moving forward, whoever is presiding, first deputy speaker, second deputy speaker, or a member of parliament, when his voice vote, he would also scream into the mic, "Ayes." Then after, he must make a declaration that the eyes have it or the nose have it, even though he screamed into the mic.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. It looks a little tacky, a little bit tacky and very funny.
Very tacky.
But anyway, so what I'm going to do is that we don't intend to spend as much time we don't intend to spend a lot of time on this matter, because Justice Abdullah himself will be joining us in the studio. He will be telling us why he went to court, and then we can spend some more time to look at the nitty-gritties of the conversation at hand. But the reason we invited the Honourable Member of Parliament, it's more to do with his trip to Romania. But of course, he's a Member of Parliament, and so we just thought we should pick his thoughts on the Supreme Court ruling on Article 104 and 102 of the 1992 Constitution. And he's given us his verdict or his view on the matter. Let's now look at your trip to Romania. And again, it was one of the things that got a lot of tongues wagging. And we've had people ask, what is he doing there? What is his business there? You're not the Foreign Affairs Minister. You're not the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister. You're not government, how do you call it? You don't work at the Flagstaff House. Sorry, the Jubilee House. Of course, you are the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee. But what business did you do? What business did you have going to Romania to see those students, and who actually funded your trip?
Well, thank you very much, Moro. It is important to appreciate that the work of members of parliament is fundamentally oversight.
Right.
Principally, we are to pursue the principles of checks and balances, ensure that whatever we are told by the executive, we verify, and we ensure that we keep the executive arm of government on its toes. And you should acknowledge that field visits, a hands-on approach, is always encouraged in parliamentary practices, parliamentary ethos, so that you are not the MP or the ranking member who is always just, seated at committee or in the chamber and who just waits to be briefed by the executive. And then you swallow it hook, line, and sinker. You don't take steps to verify and to carry out your mandate fully in the pure sense, whether what you have heard, what you are being told, or what is happening, you really have the clearest of
So
appreciation.
your role is not armchair.
So it's not an armchair role at all. And that is why in the United States of America, when President Obama was head of state in that country, John McCain, the late Senator John McCain, who chaired the Armed Services Committee, was celebrated for being hands-on. You see him always during the so-called America's War on Terror, always going to the theater of conflict, right there on the ground. So you see him in Afghanistan, you see him in Iraq, you see him in Pakistan, engaging with the troops directly. And that way, he was even able to challenge Obama's decision to reduce the troop levels. He said that, look, having gone there himself and engaged with the troops, seeing the situation on the ground, he doesn't think that there should be a reduction in the numbers. They rather need a beefing up. And the troops had told him that directly, and it was able to inform policy. So that is how you carry out your legislative role. So my going to Romania is within that spirit where, first of all, there's a humanitarian crisis. As human beings, as leaders, and in this instance, we are all leaders in this country, regardless of which party you belong, which arm of government, you are a leader. There's a humanitarian crisis. Empathy, compassion. If you can get to the location and offer some hope and bring some confidence, it is great. Put yourself in the shoes of those 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 19-year-olds who they went to Ukraine to study, largely medicine. More than 90% of them are medical students, largely, once again, because of limited opportunities back home. They didn't bargain for conflict. They have never seen in their lifetime war. And they have had to go through such a tortuous, perilous journey to get to the borders. They talk about having to walk over 3 hours because of the long queues. There was no entry, so you have to pack your bus.
Right.
Even how they got onto the bus in the first place, contributions from their nooks dues, and arranging with drivers, paying them extra than the going rates because everybody is taking advantage of the situation,
Exploiting the situation.
Yes.
Right.
Then the ordeal they went through at the borders. Look, the United Nations, the African Union, all issue statements. Because when we all saw the videos, the traumatizing experiences they went through at the borders. I mean, the United Nations, the African Union, the conscience of the international community could not be silent. So statements were issued that, hey, stop what you are doing to the black Africans. Allow them safe passage. Stop discriminating. Stop the human rights violations. So these are people who've gone through all of this, globally acknowledged by UN, African Union, and they've managed to cross the border into Romania. They are at a holding place, waiting for whatever fate, will befall them. If we can go there, instead of just waiting here, Then one day when the dust is settled, we'll invite all of them, come to Parliament, come and meet the Foreign Affairs Committee and tell us your experiences. When they ask you, why didn't you check up on us? Why didn't you come see how we were faring? How will you feel?
But the government had already initiated moves to get these or to evacuate them to their country.
So again,
right.
That evacuation itself is a matter that, as an institution, as a parliament, particularly the opposition side, must be interested in. Remember that the evacuation was in two parts. The first part is how they, on their own, are arranging buses and managing to head to the borders, because we don't have a permanent diplomatic mission in Romania.
Right.
It is our embassy in the Czech Republic that has oversight.
Right.
So they were really on their own. We have a one-person consular officer who really was not even reachable at some point, even though he tried his best. You can understand, this is a war situation. Then the embassy in Czech, as I discovered, and there are a number of things I discovered which I would not have known if I didn't make this trip. I found out that they sent only one consular officer, Mr. Ahmed Abubakar Tijani,
right,
to help. Now, one person, how can he, help them cross the border, help them get to their hotel, help those who need medical attention, help those who need tickets to be finally evacuated to Ghana? So that was really under deployment. It was atrocious to put all of that responsibility on just one person. So it was good I went there. Now, when I arrived, you should have seen the relief on their faces and how they have clearly been longing to talk to an official from Ghana, to let the official know, what they have gone through and what they want done. Look, a lot of these students, will you believe that they were in final year? They had only 3 months to graduate. Now, the biggest issue, and they keep calling, what is the plan for us to graduate? So I have been advocating since I've returned that Ghanaian medical schools, yes, it's great to acknowledge all the offers that we have received from Romania, from Bulgaria, from Hungary, from Grenada, the latest one. I've also seen an ad from the Canadians. But that's all, other countries trying to offer a helping hand that our students can transfer their credits and continue their programs and graduate. The question, however, is what are we doing for our own kith and kin, our own compatriots, our fellow citizens? What are we doing? Because all these offers that are coming, I have checked. The Bulgarian one, for example, which we acknowledge, we commend them. This shows that we are a friendly nation. The ties of diplomatic friendship, which was established by Kwame Nkrumah in the 1950s, is growing in leaps and bounds. Clearly, no doubt about that. However, you have to pay. They will pay about 8,000 euros.
Is it much more expensive?
Living expenses,
Is it much more expensive than what we're paying in Ukraine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Ukraine was about $4,500.
Oh.
Now, if you have an opportunity in Ghana, it won't cost that much. Air ticket, living as well, at least here you have some family, you have support systems, So I still maintain that we need to have a Ghanaian humanitarian offer for these students. And that is why you're realizing that after they have managed to cross the Ukrainian border into Romania, Hungary, Poland, Moldova, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia, they are really refusing to come down now.
Right.
So far, only 181 out of an estimated about 1,500 students who were there. At least on the NUC's records alone, we had 959 registered members, due paying members.
Yeah.
So, if you have a situation where you have these huge numbers and they are not coming, they are not willing to return, as the foreign minister's statement acknowledges, you need to ask yourself a question. Why don't they want to come? What can we do to encourage them to come down? Particularly as the situation doesn't look good. All the experts are saying that we may soon have a third world war on our hands.
Right.
Already, it is a low-intensity world war. We are seeing that so many actors are involved. You're seeing how, all kinds of ammunitions, and weapons of war are being sent from allied countries. The Russians seem to also have their own countries backing them. You saw what happened at the United Nations. It was not a unanimous vote, at least. As many as not less than 34 countries are abstaining. You have the likes of India, China, Syria, Venezuela, seeming to have some, sympathy for the Russian position. Right. So there is clearly an escalation. There's no indication that part of the world, of Europe, is going to see peace or stability anytime soon.
Right.
Are we sure we want our students to return to those corridors? Are they not better off being here with us? And that is why I appeal that we should do that. The other observations that I made when I hosted the students to lunch is that they are concerned that in terms of our response strategy, we don't seem to have, like other countries have, a clear emergency response policy where there are indicators, of what the risk alert is. And so depending on which risk level has been announced or put out, then you know what to do. So then there's an early response mechanism. We don't seem to have that. It's one of the things that I advocate strongly that we formulate as a country. The other observation I made is that we don't have a consular fund for the embassies.
Right.
And the Auditor General in 2017 raised concern about how embassies sometimes are compelled to misapply funds, funds that are allocated for other purposes. They have to use it for consular work, Ghanaians in distress, supporting them, and helping them to be evacuated.
It's because the budgetary allocation they give them is meager.
Because that item of a consular fund has not been established. So the Auditor General and the Public Account Committee and Parliament, the Foreign Affairs Committee, has said consistently that fund should be established. We were exposed in this Ukrainian crisis. If it had not been for Nukes Ukraine, that had some amount of money in their account, $3,000, and then the Pentecost Church, Pensa International, who we must commend, wholeheartedly and profoundly, these students will have struggled to get to the borders and to cross the borders into these neighboring European countries. So it is clear to me that we must draw lessons, and as a country, we should take immediate action to address these matters. There's also the other important observation about even how we assist in evacuations. I didn't see any camp at the border when they have money to evacuate. If it hadn't been volunteers, Romanians, who were phenomenal, I have said that this country owes Romania a great deal of gratitude, we will have been found wanting. Then, when they have been brought to a holding place, in this instance, the Hello Hotel in Bucharest, there was no medical doctor, no psychologist to at least attend to them.
Whose responsibility would that have been?
So
to ensure that was
the
done?
Foreign Ministry, the embassy.
The embassy. We don't have an embassy there. Will we have, like you said, will we have a consulate?
But you see, we have an embassy in the Czech Republic which has concurrent responsibility.
Okay, so they could have moved in.
Exactly, moved in. And we have all these great professionals in Europe. You can mobilize them.
Okay.
Neighboring countries, in Romania itself, mobilize them, bring them to the center, to offer some, immediate medical assistance. So all of these observations have been well documented, and the committee will be raising it with the ministry, we'll be discussing it in Parliament, and I'm really glad that I was able to go. And let me place on record, I've heard all kinds of outrageous claims that I should also...
Who funded this
I should
trip?
also account for my...
Yes, and that you went with a private jet.
Private jet trip. Yeah,
Yes.
it's so ridiculous. I don't think that I can ever afford a private jet trip. So I flew commercial on Turkish Airlines. I did Accra, Istanbul, Bucharest, and same route back. And it was personal funds, because though I was entitled to parliamentary support, I thought that raising a memo and all of that
was going to take time.
Would take time. This was an emergency situation. And so emergency situation, it calls for an emergency conduct and response, and that's what I did. And
did this trip cost you an arm and a leg?
If
nothing is worth the life of a Ghanaian.
Absolutely. And if you consider, and I was so fulfilled, the relief on their faces, the hugs, how excited they were. And I mean, at that point, we're all just Ghanaians, common humanity. It didn't matter, which party you belong to, which government may have sent you there on government scholarship. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
What matters is that we share a common nationhood, a common humanity, and this is a humanitarian crisis. And we need to bring leadership to bear, bring compassion to bear, and see how we all help. So I have commended the government for the commitment to evacuate. It clearly is costing this country good money, but it is well and necessary. We owe a duty of care to our citizens anytime they find themselves in harm's way. If you see the extent to which other countries go, even when you dare touch one of their nation, no matter which part of the world. I mean, you see what the Israelis do, the famous raid of Entebbe to free, their nationals who were taking
very
hostage.
caring and protective of their citizens.
I mean, the Americans too are renowned. I mean, as we speak, they are on the case of the Russians for holding, a female basketball star. They will go to every length to protect their nationals. And as leaders in this country, that's what we must be committed to. Because already there's a lot of cynicism out there.
Right.
People think that those in leadership are a bit too inward-looking, are a bit too self-serving. They look out for themselves and their own too much. And I think that we all must dedicate efforts to smashing that myth and showing that we really care for our people.
In case you just joined us, I'm talking to the Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency. That's the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He's back from Romania, and where he went to see for himself the situation that stranded Ghanaian students who are studying in Ukraine who had to find shelter in Romania. He went there to interact with them, and he's actually accounting to us or narrating to us his experience when he went there. And for him, the experience and what that is supposed to do for us going forward in terms of our, our response to emergencies, as we have seen. What is our emergency plan, exit plan, and so on and so forth. So, and that's what he's been talking about. Of course, he also started by telling us his view about the Supreme Court's ruling, very interesting Supreme Court ruling on Article 102 and 104. We will end this conversation shortly with thoughts about the president's what he terms as luxurious trips, and he's been on that. He's been on that issue for a very long time. It's been very critical of the president. The president, in his last trip, decided to go to Dubai for a commercial flight. So then, are we going to allow this matter to rest, or he's going to still be very watchful of the president's trip? Now, let me look at some of the messages that you've sent us. Very interesting messages indeed. So, Papa Bisu sent a message. I want to say very good morning to you, Papa Bisu. He says, good morning, my brother. This is something serious about our democracy. And he expressed His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He says, it seems the MPP government is practicing a different kind of governance via Buga Buga way. And it says it's always having its way. However, sir, for the majority of the suffering Ghanaians, and this is sharply dividing the nation, leading to tension in the country, making the system unsafe. And so this must be the last time we have this type of Buga Buga government from 2024 general election. That's from Papa Bisu. And this one here says that, good morning, Moro. This is a great program. I like the interview you've had with Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, except that you are allowing him to speak his mind entirely without asking him questions. Well, he's here to tell us a story. He's not here to be interrogated. I mean, when we're having conversations when I'm supposed to interrogate the person, I will. But this is not one of those inquisitorial type of interviews. And you must understand how we're trained as broadcast journalists. The topics and the personalities also actually depend or sort of determines the type of interview style that you adopt, okay? So that's how it works. And this one here is coming from JB in Mamubi. JB says, I think the Honorable is doing well, but please ask him, is he not hiding behind a mischievous action? He thinks you have an ulterior motive for going to... it says, I always appreciate Sam's submission on issues. That's coming from Gerald in Tamale. And this one says, hi, hello, good morning. I'm Wilbeck. I'm watching live from Akinwada. Wilbeck, thank you very much for watching us all the way from Akinwada. We're happy that you're part of the Metro TV family. And this one here, this comes from... Yes. So this one's coming from Justice. Justice says, "Good morning, Moro. It's always refreshing watching you on Metro Television this Saturday morning. I think that the honourable member of Parliament's decision to go to Romania is a step in the right direction because the government took so much time before deciding on what to do with the students as to whether to evacuate them or to watch the situation unfold. So kudos to you, the honorable member of Parliament, Okudzeto." And he says Okudzeto. That's where he ends. And this one here says, "Good morning, Mr. Host. I think that the way we do things here in Ghana is like dancing to music in the market, which is not being played for us. Honorable Kujeto, God bless you for your good work done for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora that's coming from gender. I don't know him. Nanekia Mwabuating Ablakwa Central. He says, AKA E. Levy is good. He says, "Good morning, Moro. Samuel Kujeto Ablakwa and his populism approach, you mean populist, you mean, to issues is very interesting. He didn't go to Romania because he wants to show love, but rather to find fault and to use it for his political sophistry. That's Nanekia Mwabuating Ablakwa Central, AKA E. Levy is good." And this one here says that Sharifa sent a message. It says, "Good morning." It says, "Sam has always been an objective guy and always a delight to listen to him." And a final one here is coming from Professor Jijo. And it says, "Good morning. Please tell Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa that his decision to go to Romania is a fantastic one. Kudos to him. Congratulations. And he should do that again and again." Well, that's quite interesting. I think 90% of our viewers, at least based on the messages we've read, seem to be commending you, and they are full of praises for your trip to Romania. So you have been very critical of His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for his trips abroad, and you have termed it several times as a luxurious trip based on how much he's spending on these chartered flights per hour. The last time I checked, we're talking some £15,000 or so, no, $15,000, isn't it? Per hour. Well, perhaps the president has heard you, and the president thinks that perhaps you have a point there. So the president decided this time around he's going to Dubai for the Dubai Expo, and he decides to go with a chartered flight. Sorry, he decides to go with a commercial flight. You must be excited.
Moro, let me begin with a preamble.
Okay.
As a country, there is so much that we are grappling with. Our economy is not in a good place. If you read the 2021 Population and Housing Census, which I will encourage all of us to read, and particularly those of us in national leadership, it should be our Bible. You see how situations are worsening. Unemployment rate has worsened from the last time a census was carried out in 2010. It was 5.3%. Now it is 13.4%, almost tripled. You have more than 1.5 million people in this country who don't have jobs at all, capable, able to work, but can't find jobs. If you read the Population and Housing Census, you realize that 11% of all structures in this country are made out of wood, metal, small kiosks. 11%. And out of that, it says 57% of them are residential. So you see all these kiosks you see around, you think they are just shops for selling goods and wares. People are waiting for them to close their commercial work. 57% to go reside in them. Underemployment is worse, about 50%. So people who are pretending to be working and pretending to be receiving salary. And the World Bank confirms that as well. You also have a situation in that report where if you look at the age category from 15 to 24, about 38% of that population have no jobs. There's no hope for them. As we speak, this is an economy that cannot pay District Assembly Common Fund on time. Consistent as we speak, there's over a year of arrears. Contractors have not been paid for more than 2 years. School feeding caterers have not been paid. The labor unions are agitating. UTAC has just had one of its longest strikes in history. Their conditions of service are not acceptable, and justifiably so, they are demanding increase in their conditions of service. So you have all of these myriads of problems. Look at the state of our education. For more than 2 years now, we can't provide textbooks. We are still doing double track. Look at the state of our hospitals. There are many hospitals in this country without incubators. Preterm babies who are born are just licensed to die. Pregnant women are still giving birth on the floor. These are our concrete reality. Nobody can run away from this. So you expect that the leaders will be prudent. That is why the president himself, when he was campaigning, and then at his inaugural address, he promised that because of all these challenges, which have now been worsened, by the way, he will protect the public purse. Now, how can a president who tells us, pledges that he will protect the public purse, comes into office, sees a presidential jet, which is in pristine condition, purchased by a member of his own party, the Venerable President Kufuor, God bless him, he bequeathed to us a presidential jet. Of course, at the time he was going to buy 2, we criticized it. And so President Mills canceled the contract for 1 and kept 1. That 1 arrived in 2010, the Falcon 900 EXE, a long-range aircraft. Other presidents, from President Mills, President Mahama, including President Akufo-Addo himself, has flown this aircraft to the furthermost part of the world. You can fly almost 10 hours non-stop. If it's beyond 10 hours, you do a 1 refueling stop, and you are at anywhere in this world, from Asia to North America. This aircraft has taken President Mahama to Cuba. It has taken President Mills to New York. It sent President Akufo-Addo to Washington. It goes everywhere, 12-hour, 13-hour journeys. Suddenly, we are told that it's no longer fit for purpose for the president. We have been asking in Parliament the justification for that. Who are the experts who came up with this theory? How is it that suddenly a presidential jet, which Parliament was told, has a lifespan of 20 years? 20 years.
So you don't believe it?
Minimum lifespan 20 years.
So you don't believe it?
We don't believe it. There's no evidence to that effect. I mean, especially when experts have said that, look, if an aircraft is fit to take you all the way to Angola, which is almost the distance of going to London, 6 hours, you cannot argue that that same aircraft cannot take you to London, cannot take you to Hamburg, cannot take you to Brussels. Look, it defies understanding. And the experts are mocking at us. Aviation experts, the aviation industry, aviation buffs are having such a laugh at the ridiculousness of these excuses.
So before you continue, what do you want to see for you to actually believe that perhaps what state protocol or the national security is saying is true about the state or the condition of the flight? What do you want to see?
Brilliant question. The presidential fleet is under the Ghana Air Force.
Right.
And more specifically, the communications squadron. Okay. They have been in charge of our presidential jets. This is the 4th presidential jet in history. Our first presidential jet, the DH-125, under President Nkrumah, all the way to Fokker 28 under President Achampon. He bought it. Then President Rawlings purchased the Gulfstream GIII. This is the 4th presidential jet we've had. The communications squadron of the Ghana Air Force has always been in charge. We want to hear them out. We want to see an independent report from them, not politicians coming to Parliament or going on radio saying that it is not.
Would you trust their report?
It is not fit for purpose?
Would you trust that? Especially when we have politicized everything in this country.
No, you see, these are the same experts, the Ghana Air Force, who told us that this jet has a lifespan minimum 20 years, so we should buy it. When they came to Parliament in 2008, that's what they told us. Okay. Do you know that the Namibians also bought a Falcon
around that same time,
a much older version, 10 years earlier?
And it's still in use.
It's still in use. That is what President Gengop used for even this same AU-EU meeting in Brussels.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
More than 30 years old. Air Force One, do you know it was purchased in 1990? That's what President Biden is still using.
You're right.
President Macron's jet arrived in 2010, the same year as ours. That's what President Macron is using. So how is it? And we all know that the Ghana Air Force, the Ghana Armed Forces generally, are renowned globally for their superior maintenance culture. They are not like us, the civilians. I mean, look at how many years they maintained the Fokker 28. For well over 40 years. I mean, the armed forces is so great. They are so magnificent. They are so splendid when it comes to their maintenance culture.
So you will
How
not
is it that-
accept. So you will not accept the excuse that our aircraft is not fit for purpose unless and until you see something more concrete.
Exactly, an independent
report
from
on that.
experts.
Okay.
Those who are in charge.
All right. So
of
carry on with
managing.
the point
and,
about
and especially when
Right.
I have also from my tracking
Okay.
seen that whilst the president claims
Mm-hmm.
that this jet is no longer fit for purpose for cross continental travel
right.
or travel outside the continent,
Mm-hmm.
I have seen from my tracking that this jet goes to France periodically.
By who?
Indeed,
With who?
as recent as August last year,
It went to France.
it went to France, and then October as well, it went to France.
Driven by who?
So
Or used by who? Let me put it that way.
it's not clear.
You're not clear.
It's not clear.
But it's in motion.
Yes, I'm able to track. I see the destination. I want to suspect that perhaps servicing, maybe it was sent for servicing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because the manufacturers,
Right.
the Dassault companies in France.
But the point still remains
but
that if it can travel to France
So if he can travel to
for
France for
servicing,
servicing,
why can't it take the president
why
to
can't he take the president to the
Europe?
same country, to France? That is a
But that
fundamental
makes, that
question.
makes sense.
It must make sense.
Right.
I mean,
That makes sense.
so Moro, I have been on this crusade saying that let's protect the public purse.
Right.
The president should keep his word. He should stick to the presidential jet. However, if he insists that he will not use the presidential jet, there are more economical options. There are much cheaper but safer, comfortable options.
Which are?
And you remember, I have been advocating that you can fly commercial. And I've cited so many presidents, from the Chancellor Merkel, who was celebrated for her modesty, all the way to the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who continues to fly commercial. All the meetings President Akufo-Addo arrives, in Arabian king, Russian oligarch, British aristocrat style. Cyril Ramaphosa, who is one of the richest Africans Africa has ever known, majority shareholder in MTN,
Okay.
One of the richest people who can buy 10 of these, private jets. He decides to fly commercial to bring his citizens along, to show some modesty. How is it that our president cannot emulate Cyril Ramaphosa, cannot emulate the Tanzanian president, cannot emulate Boris Johnson, cannot emulate Angela Merkel? And these are economists. These are people who preside over economies, much, much bigger, more wealthier nations. So I have consistently argued, and the vast majority of Ghanaians agree with us, that the president should stop this chat. Look, these charters do not come cheap. First, in May, the president was using the ACJ 320 Neo, the world's most luxurious, lavish aircraft. Then he moved to the LXDIO, operated by Global Jet Luxembourg. He fell in love with that one, and he's been using that from June consistently until February this year. From all our tracking, the president has spent not less than 25 million cedis since May last year. 25 million. Imagine what 25 million Ghana cedis can do. How many of your Agenda 111 hospitals can be built? How many of your dormitories can be built?
I mean, we could have saved a lot of money.
So
That's
that,
the point you're making.
double track will end.
Right.
Textbooks. So that at least our children can have textbooks.
Okay.
The school feeding caterers. We have cleared all those areas.
Well, he has heard you.
So
He has heard you.
So
So-
I have had to commend the president that
Right.
for this recent trip
To Dubai.
he flew commercial.
Right.
But I was cautious in that statement. I said that, look, we hope it won't be a fluke. We hope it's not a 9-day wonder. And we hope, because I tracked the Boeing 777 use. It was a special aircraft. It had a private first-class suite. So even though it's not up to the level of the LXDIO, which the president has become accustomed to, all of a sudden, I hope that it would not be a fluke. Because, you see, I've heard some people say that, but because there's a direct flight to Dubai, Emirates, that's why the president flew directly. I tell them that, no, there's a direct flight to London. The president has been using chartered flight to
Right.
London. There's a direct flight to Brussels.
Right.
The president has been using direct flights to chartered flights to these direct flying destinations from Accra. So in as much as we commend the president for doing what he should have done all along, but it's because of how difficult it has been. The president was so intransigent, he wouldn't listen to the Ghanaian people. And look at the uproar, the furore generated. Anytime you media practitioners do a vox pops, you talk to Ghanaians. Look, even the e-levy, why Ghanaians don't want to hear anything about additional tax revenues. Listen to Ghanaians. They always cite this president's reckless conduct when it comes to profligacy, ostentation, extravagance. That is why the Ghanaian people, organized labor, they are saying that, look, we are not buying all these your sermons that help us to burden share, tighten your belts, times are hard, the economy is not good, because they see you in your conduct by these chartered aircrafts, by your allocation. You worsen all of this by how much you send to the Office of Government Machinery so that you can be funding this profligacy. Then how much you even allocate to yourselves as contingency fund. The contingency vote has increased from 186 million to 933 million Ghana cedis, over 435% increase. So this is a president who, tells everybody else, tighten your belt, manage, bear with us, these are tough times. But he, in his personal conduct, is not exhibiting what he is calling on all of us to do, and that is why. That's why I remain.
Yes, let me
really
read our
committed
final
to this
batch
campaign.
of messages. George Boyd Doe from Kaswa, he says that I find it interesting that Mr. Ablakwa was silent when his government was signing the take-or-pay agreement that is killing the nation, but it turns out to be more concerned about the president's travels, which is not even 10% of the take-or-pay agreement. We were in this country when we had no chalks in public schools when his party was in power. He should give us a break because we know he's serving his political ambitions, not Ghana. George Boydo from Kaswa. This one says, which article or clause in the 1992 Constitution has the standing order breached or in any other constitution ever in Ghana? Where in Ghana's Constitution states that a deputy speaker or any member of parliament presiding can vote. The future is really pregnant. That's coming from Edison. This one from Dominic says, please, good morning. I'm enjoying your show now. Ghana Constitution has turned to a different thing, something else under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who calls himself a lawyer. 2024, we, the floating voters, we will show him where power lies. This one says, someone like Ablakwa deserves to be the president of Ghana. He's an honest person, and he doesn't play partisan politics in this presentation. Well, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa hasn't told any of us that he's interested in becoming president. For now, he says he's serving his constituency as their member of parliament. That's his focus now, so we don't know about his presidential ambition. And this one comes as, I think Honorable Sam Ablakwa is doing a great job making sure the MP government protects the public purse. I just love his zeal and hoping to meet him one day. Jerry from Nkoko. This one is from, says, good morning, my guy. Okudzeto has done well. I am Saint Francisco, the King Gosti inside Kujokrum, Tadi. And I just admire my fellow V-mate and my Nooks president. I'll vow for Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa any day. He's charitable, he's honest, visionary, he's doing well, extremely well as member of parliament. And this one says, hi, this is Michael Mackenzie. Please, I'm at J. Credia, and I want to meet the Honorable for an important meeting. I have been looking for him for 6 years now. And you give your number out. Okay, I'll give your number to the Honorable Member of Parliament. I'm sure he would make time to call you, busy as he is.
I'll call him immediately.
Yes, he says, please let him contact me. It's extremely important. Good morning, Metro. That's a great show, of course. That's coming from Mahood in Techiman. My greetings from Togo to Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa. And that's come Dr. Alex Kofi Edo, all the way from Togo. Yes. That's quite interesting. Good morning, boss. Please ask the Honorable when we're hearing his analysis on the Speaker's trip to Dubai. He's just done that now. I beg you, your messages are coming. So I've got more than 50 messages. I don't know how I'm going to read all these messages, but I've tried. Your final message before you take leave of us. So what's next? So two things, and just in 2 minutes. How do you foresee things panning out or playing out in Parliament with the Speaker's ruling? That's my first question to you. Secondly, all the experiences and all the information that you've gathered from your trip to Romania, what do you intend to do with it?
Great. So
those are the two questions for you before you take leave of us.
So in terms of how I expect things to pan out,
yeah,
it's interesting that as we speak tomorrow, the majority group in Parliament, it's not those declared majority on paper.
How?
It is us, the NDC. Our 137 MPs are intact. It is our colleagues who cannot find the Honorable Ajasafo. They are, and we are joining them in prayer for.
She hopefully should be back next week because she's asked for 4 weeks
for the Honorable Kojoko.
She hopefully will be back next week.
So you see, that is why this petty politicking of playing the numbers game. And so because of that, we are assaulting the pillars of democracy, desecrating, principles and all of that. It won't help us.
Okay.
Let us come together. Let's show maturity. Let's be adults in the room. And let's pursue what is in the national interest. Look, we have had some proposal. We have said, for example, cut down expenditure. We've provided specific areas where you can cut down. We've talked about blocking the loopholes.
Yeah,
We've
right.
talked about even this tax exemptions that they are still granting to giant multinationals.
Right.
When all of those funds can be put together and we can use it to pursue our development objectives. So let's come together.
Right.
This numbers game. And you see the things going on. Look, they even went to court, trumped up charges, or tried to whittle down our numbers. Now, in doing that, we have also discovered there are at least 3 MPs on your side who, under Article 97(1)(c), their seats must be declared vacant because they have absented themselves for more than 15 days. And it's a matter we are going to pursue. Yesterday, I served notice on the floor that matter must be pursued under Article 97(1)(c). We cannot be saying we are committed at fighting absenteeism, all this true 1C, roguism in the institution, when people who have clearly violated are not dealt with. So, whatever they do with this numbers game, it's not working for them. It's not working in their favor at all times. Look, check. These days, since we resumed, every time it is our side that is majority in the House. They can find their people. I hear that as of this week, it's a Dubai week. So virtually everybody is in Dubai. So you see, the numbers game will not help them.
Okay.
I want to see consensus building,
Right.
bridge building. Let's come together,
Okay.
and let's pursue the national interest.
Right.
The other matter of the presidential jet, where it goes from here. Remember, we filed a motion calling for a full-scale inquiry because all of these matters will be settled. They claim that the presidential jet is not fit for purpose. Why? We want to know.
Okay.
Why are you taking these decisions?
Right.
And then ultimately, I am saying that Ghana needs a presidential travel policy or law like we have in other jurisdictions, so that we remove this discretionary element from a president who just decides to be so ostentatious at our peril.
Okay.
And I've started some work in that regard.
Okay.
I'm hoping to put forward a private members bill on presidential travel, so
Okay.
that we can settle this matter. So that should also tell you that it's not about, people say, oh, why doesn't he like President Kufu? It's not about that. It's not a personal dislike. It's the principle. And I don't expect that any other president, even an NDC president,
Okay.
will conduct himself this way,
Okay.
abandon the presidential jet and be
All right.
using, these ultra luxurious
get that.
chartered aircrafts.
I get that. I want to thank you very much for joining us. The Honourable Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, the Honourable Okudzeto Ablakwa. And coincidentally, we attended, the same, tertiary institution, University of Ghana, Lagos, and we were all at the Vandal City as well. So
Absolutely.
he's a
The Vandal
V-mate.
City. And
Thank you.
let me thank the Vandals. I can't stop thanking them. The Vandals were with me in my constituency, the Volta Region chapter.
Oh, that's interesting.
We did about a month ago.
Okay.
An amazing weekend of donations, cleanup, and
Vandals know how to-
engaging.
they know how to show love and show support.
I can't stop thanking them.
Right.
And then let me extend condolences. I'm heading out to the funeral
of Iskwashi.
of Iskwashi, a very
Yeah.
very hardworking, dynamic,
Right.
and respected, media practitioner.
Absolutely.
May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Right.
And-
May his soul rest in
and
perfect peace.
condolences
And
to
we'll all be there.
Auntie Cynthia and all the kids.
Right. Thank you. That's the Honourable Member of Parliament. Now, I'll take a short break. When I come back, perhaps the most wanted man, the most talked about man today in Ghana, and I'm talking about the private legal practitioner, Justice Abdullahi. He went to court. You tell us why he went to court, the outcomes, and what he intends to do next. Stay tuned in.